weekly reading is taken from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This is week number 6. The importance of soul receptivity. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Chapter 1 of the Gospel of St. John states, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believed on his name." This was a passage Paramhansa Yogananda often quoted to his disciples. Be in tune, he would tell them. Delusion can't touch you if you will keep in tune. A few of you will fall, he once said, but it needn't be if you would stay in tune. Of a disciple who became highly advanced, even though she didn't meditate much, he said, she got there by attunement. To one who found meditation difficult, he said, I will meditate for you as long as you stay in tune. Truth is a state of consciousness, not a well-worded definition. It is in that consciousness, above all, that our lives are transformed. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, to those that are ever attached to me, and who worship me with love, I impart discernment, by means of which they attain me. Out of my love for them, I, the divine within them, set a light in them the radiant lamp of wisdom, thereby dispelling the darkness of their ignorance. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Surendra. I'm joined this morning by Bharati and Pavani and Vajra, and it's our great pleasure, as always, to be with you. In the years that I've been with Ananda, I've now heard that reading over 20 times. And every time, the same sentence jumps out at me. Master says that if I'm having difficulty with meditation, he will meditate for me. Wow, would that be a dream come true? You know? I'm a little tired this morning, Master. Maybe you could take over for me, you know. You're better at this than I am anyway. I'll just pull the covers up over my head and catch another hour of sleep, okay? Unfortunately, I don't think that's the arrangement that he had in mind. The implication is that God's grace is available to us always. But going back to sleep is not exactly the way to magnetize it. In a sense, the image of pulling the covers up over my head is descriptive of what we do in surrendering to our egoic desires instead of our soul's call. We're talking this morning about soul receptivity, and that means certainly showing up for meditation, showing up for all of our responsibilities and all that we have to do. You know, most of us need less sleep than we think we do. Sleep is of two kinds. It's the kind that refreshes, and the other is the kind that leads to inertia. As we practice showing up for meditation, as we give ourselves selflessly to others, and as we welcome tasks that stretch and strengthen our willpower, we attract that grace. We find that sleep is less compelling, and the grace of God and gurus flows through us more readily. Now, as if there was ever a doubt, Master's offer to meditate for me comes with a caveat that dashes my excitement in the very next sentence. He says that I have to earn that privilege by attuning myself to his way of being. Wouldn't you know it, there is always a catch. And so let's take a look at what that might be. The word attunement sounds like a reference to music, and I think that's appropriate. It gives us the idea of melody. It's harmonic. Everyone is attuned to someone or to something. Auto mechanics are attuned to the workings of cars. Athletes are attuned to the nuances of their sport. Mothers are attuned to the needs of their children. These are admirable achievements, and they speak to a certain level of refinement. But what Master had in mind was a higher level of refinement than even that. A level that connects us to our intuition, and through that intuition, the ability to draw God's and Guru's grace to us. Think of a tightrope walker crossing a deep chasm. Can you imagine the discipline, the daring, and the courage that is required to get across? Now, think of the discipline and the courage and the practice, the commitment that it would take instead of crossing the deep chasm on a tightrope, that it would be to seek God. Seek God instead of these other finite and mortal pastimes that we are so drawn to and that we commit ourselves to so often and so easily. We attune ourselves to these pastimes to some extent at the extent of our seeking a higher awareness, seeking the divine. We can certainly do that within the context of our seeking, but more often we're thinking in terms of kind of what's in it for me and why am I doing this. Now, I'm no model for walking that talk, and it puzzles me as to why. Where is the leap of faith that we all want to make and yet seem to shy away from? We conform to the ways of the world. We suffer the pains of our pleasures when they end. We are drawn to the teachings of self-realization and to its path of freedom, and still we retreat from devoting ourselves to Krishna's promise in the Bhagavad Gita that we heard this morning. To those who are attached to me, I light in them the radiant light of wisdom, by means of which they attain me. Well, I have my excuses. Perhaps you have a few of your own. Thanks to our skill in the use of subjective reasoning, we can rationalize just about anything that we do. But someday we're going to come to the end of this life's opportunity. And if we look back, we're likely to have to say, of much of what we have done, what was I thinking? What we are thinking, I think, is that much of this world is wonderful and appealing. Love and fun and friendship, these can be a part of our daily fare. And we want to experience these qualities as much as we can. But there's a flip side also, isn't there? And it's unavoidable as long as we depend on the world to give us the happiness that we are seeking. Sometimes that flip side delivers blow after blow. And the only comfort it gives us at that point is sharing our miseries. The expression "for better or worse," it alludes to a balancing act that is very often hard to balance. Well, it's time for a pause. In giving a Sunday talk, Swamiji always recommended that we include a little humor. And the words "for better or worse" certainly give us that opportunity. They're part of most traditional wedding ceremonies, but they make a point that speaks to the nature of what we are all dealing with, whether we're married or not, because we are all married in a sense, for better or worse, to the vagaries of duality and to just what all is involved in living a human life. So here for a moment or two are a few barely poignant jokes about what it's like to be alive in this world. Marriages are made in heaven, but so are thunder and lightning. Anyone who says that marriage is a 50-50 proposition doesn't know a thing about women or percentages. and this one is for the women. Marrying a man is like buying something that you've admired for a long time in a shop window. You may love it when you get it home, but it doesn't always go with everything else in the house. And this one from comedian Henny Youngman. He said, I bought my wife a new car for her birthday. A week later, she called and said, "There's water in the carburetor." I said, "Oh, where's the car?" She said, "It's in the lake." In our relationships and in everything else, stuff happens, doesn't it? We make mistakes. We think we know what we're doing, and very often the universe proves us wrong. But along come the likes of Christ, Krishna, and Yogananda, and if we allow ourselves to let them guide us, duality and delusion begin to have less power to affect us. The car may still wind up in the lake, but hey, it's only a car, and we can deal with it. And after a time, it just becomes another story that we tell to our friends for laughs. This world, for better or worse, is a wild ride. It if we allow it to, drives us into a rut that goes round and round. We lose sight of the truth that there is something better than even the best that the world can offer us. It is our destiny, Master said, to free ourselves and to unite with God just as the river unites with the sea. That begins to happen with soul receptivity, with peering over the wall of our rutted ups and downs and seeing within ourselves the means of liberation, meditation, self-offering, forgiveness, and above all, love of God. You may have noticed in a recent posting that Nayaswami Jyotish, the spiritual director and Dharmacharya of Ananda Worldwide, is writing a new book called Ananda Seva. It's about serving humanity and all of creation as a way of dissolving the ego. Seva, in other words, is a form and function of soul receptivity. In today's affirmation, we were shown that work as an expression of seva, in the spirit of seva, is likewise a way to that higher state of inspired divine connection. I will do my work thinking of thee, Lord. I offer to thee the very best that is in me. Work is a supremely noble occupation, from the messiest chore to raising a family to steering the course of a multinational business. Work nourishes the soul, whether or not the outcome is what we hoped it would be. Work is about the journey more than the destination. And when we do it with a willing attitude, it becomes a blessing not only to ourselves but to the universe at large. If I ask myself why I was born, in one form or another, the answer is the same. I was born to offer to God the very best that is in me. Good work drives out our pettiness, our moodiness, our worries. This life on earth has been designed as a test. It's a test of will, of courage, of attitude and behavior. Every day, new challenges arrive, but really they're not new at all. They're the ones that are simply repackaged versions of the ones that we have yet to overcome. They're the lessons unlearned that continue to cycle back to us until we are willing and able to put them behind us. There are the poor habits that we have not changed, the moods that overtake us, the delusions, the desires that lead to our disappointments. Every test is a summons to do the work that will be needed in order to pass it. It's a call to the best that is in us, isn't it? Somewhere in the course of this life, we're going to realize that. And we are going to experience the growth, as I'm sure we're experiencing now, as, people who are here seeking God. We're going to find greater freedom, and we're going to enjoy greater inner peace and joy. How? Through soul receptivity. As many as received him, To them gave he the power to become the sons of God. That's a promise this world cannot fulfill. We have to do the work, and we will. But in the meantime, something keeps holding us back. Swami Kriyananda encouraged us repeatedly to make the commitment and effort to become Jivan Muktas in this lifetime, free of ego attachment. But something, it seems, always gets in the way. He showed us by his example how to do it, and he showed us in his daily living the joy that that will bring. What are we afraid of that makes it difficult to step up to that level? Do we think that we are not capable of being as he was? You know, it's widely believed that fear of failure is the greatest fear, and that we avoid taking risks because of that. But really, the greater fear is fear of success. What is it about becoming a son or daughter of God that frightens us away from that opportunity, that frightens us into neglecting that opportunity? I ask myself that question every time I shrink from my soul's higher interest and its higher purpose. What am I afraid of? What are you afraid of? These masters are showing us the way to eternal bliss, and we keep looking to other sources for what we think we want. Why is that? Something to think about, isn't it? I'd like to close with a very appropriate reading from Whispers from Eternity. This is one that Bob read the other day in our morning meditation, and I think it's just perfect for this subject of soul receptivity. Thy gentle voice saying, "Come home," I often heard, but through many lives it was drowned in the tumult of my wild cravings. I have forsaken the jostling crowds of desire. In the solitude of my mind, my devotion bursts to hear thy voice. Take away every dream memory of earthly sounds that yet lurks in my mind. I want to hear thy still voice, ever singing in the silence of my soul. Om Shanti. Amen. Let's take just